Welcome everyone. This race is the first round of the Southeast Regional Championship Series. This is in Newberry, Florida on March 7th, 2021. This is a cross-country race. And going off the line here, I am racing Cat 1 in the experienced age group and got a pretty good start for this one. I was pretty surprised. I normally don't start very quickly. I am more of a slow twitch muscle guy, but had a pretty good start. Immediately go into the single track, and then we pop out here to the right. We're on a grass road. Got a lot of wind coming in from the left side, so I drafted a little bit and kind of just got in an echelon off that guy's wheel. So this course, in my opinion, is the best cross-country race course in Florida. And you've probably seen this in some of my other videos because this race course is 5 minutes from my house. No joke, literally, it's a 5-minute drive over to this race course. And the reason I like it is because there's a lot of climbing. And it's obviously short climbing. It's Florida, so we're not doing long extended climbs. But there's a lot of up and down. And so I really let the camera roll on this first part. So this race course will be run in different directions. Now this course is only open during race weekends, which typically happens 2, sometimes 3 times a year. And so unfortunately, this is not a course we get to ride very often. But when it's open, a lot of locals, even if they're not racing, just come out here and ride because it's such a good course. It's pretty demanding in the sense that you've got a lot of short power climbs. So this is a good example. We go across this field and then immediately go back into climbing. And so I'm pacing myself pretty good on this first lap. This is a 4-lap race, and so total race distance is going to be 22 miles. And like I said, the climbs are just a real grind. And there's a lot of nice little descents. They're pretty technical. More technical than you can probably tell in a GoPro video. There's a lot of roots, little rocks, and it rained all day the day before. And I didn't think I was going to get out and pre-ride this course, but I was able to get out at the end of the day on Saturday and get some laps in. And that made for a course that had some slick spots. Not too bad. I'd say overall the course is in great shape, but there were some slick spots that you had to be careful of. And we're going to come up to a steep climb coming up in a minute that was okay. It was a little slippery, and the guy in front of me, his back tire slipped out, and I ended up passing him. But again, you'll see that coming up in a few minutes. So the weather turned out to be perfect for race day, absolutely perfect. Other than a few greasy spots from mud, the course is in great shape, but the weather was just awesome. So I think it was in the 30s when I woke up that morning. A little chilly warming up. I'd say it was in the low to mid 40s for warm up. But by the time we started racing, it was almost 60 degrees. And as you can tell, it's totally sunny. So we've really had some fortunate weather for racing in this time of the year for 2021. All right, now we're coming up to the steep climb. And like with many GoPro videos, you can't really tell how steep things are. But this is about at least 20% grade, maybe even steeper. And so my buddy there on the right, his tire slipped out, and I was able to make a pass and held my position for a long time. So now I'm in second place. And the guy in front of me had a red number plate on his bike, which I think means that he won this series last year. He's from Georgia. And so he was a really strong rider. Really good climber. This guy on the climbs, he kind of got a little bit of distance on me, and then I was able to bring him back in a little bit on the flatter single track and on the more open sections. But again, I'm just keeping the camera rolling for this first part. So what I did was I kind of filmed different parts of the course for each lap. So this is still lap 1. We're only a few minutes into the race and going around a rock quarry. So you'll see on a lot of these scenes, there is going to be a rock quarry, water on the left or right side. And in this case, we're going around the quarry that is on our left. And it's a really picturesque race course. The water is, because it has a lot of minerals in it, it's really blue, but it's really beautiful. And so, by the way, I'm riding a Niner RKT9 RDO. It's my 23-pound full suspension race weapon. I love that bike. It's got Stan's podium wheels on it. I mentioned that in my last race video, but a lot of people ask me about what bike I'm riding. So it is the Niner RKT9 cross-country bike. This is a section that has some rocks that you got to go around and over. So this whole first section is, it's technical and it's pretty, it's kind of a slow tech area. Now we start to open it up a little bit. Again, it's climbing and descending these little short hills that makes for a really fun race course. We're going to be coming out of the woods here. On the right, you will have seen the start area, and there it is again. So I'm picking up the video now on lap 2. So I've already done a whole lap. I've come back through that same area, and now I'm on lap 2. And I just wanted to do that so I could kind of talk through the race and show different parts of the course without making this video too long. This is a section that's really fun. It's flat, but it's kind of open in the sense of it doesn't have a lot of turns like you saw before, so you can really get your speed up. Dropping down here to the right. So I want to put a plug in here for the race promoters. This race has been put on by Gone Riding, and a lot of people ask me about how do they find out about racing in Florida. So go to goneriding.com, so www.goneriding.com. These guys have been putting on races in Florida for, gosh, I'd say 25 years or more. And they actually are some of the most organized races that I've ever done. I mean, they start on time. They do podiums not too long after the races are over. They post the results the next day pretty quickly. And then now they're chip time. They weren't when I first started racing, but they always scored the races accurately. But again, these guys do a great job with the races. So like I said, if you're interested, go to goneriding.com. They're doing a lot of variety of races now. Endurance, they're doing some gravel. They actually had an e-bike race after this race. It was supposed to be on Saturday, but it got rained out, so they postponed it till Sunday here at 2 o'clock. And so that was the first e-bike race that I've ever seen in Florida. And I think there's only a couple, maybe just that one. But this section is pretty fast and flowy here. I'm actually in the lead here. I made a pass and I'm in the lead. Unfortunately, I didn't hold it for the third lap, but I had a pretty good race. So the second place guy is right on my wheel. Super nice guy. We had fun riding together. He's a solid rider. And, it's just fun to kind of push yourself against other people and also push yourself against yourself. So that's one thing I love about racing is sometimes you're just pushing yourself against yourself. And unless your name is Nino Schurter, or however you say his last name, you're probably not the fastest guy out there, or not the fastest guy in the world, I should say. And so, it's about having fun. Okay, now we're on, I think this is still lap 2, and he made a pass, came around me, and stayed on his wheel. This is a fun section, super fun section. And you'll see the quarry down on the right. So as you can see, this course is, it's a lot of turning, a lot of technical that, again, can be hard to see in the GoPro. You don't want to go straight there because if you did, you go over a cliff into the water. And now we're dropping down a kind of a bumpy lime rock little road here, and then we're going to come back up this road. I think I stopped the camera here and just picked it back up on the climb. Yes. So now we're coming back up, I think. Nope, already finished that climb actually. Now we're in a different section. And so kind of back to what I was saying. Okay, this is the climb. Sorry, I got some of the video in that little pit down there. So now we're coming back up that bumpy section that I was talking about that we were coming down. This is a good climb. This not only, went on for, as long as a Florida climb can go, but then, you made a right-hand turn back into the single track, and then you started climbing again fairly shortly after that. So nice section to push hard. Typically I do better on courses with hills. I'm a climber. I am fairly lightweight. I'm not a sprinter. I don't have fast twitch muscles like my son does. So I like climbing. I really like climbing in the mountains in races where we're climbing for 30 minutes to an hour. But even on these climbs, I do okay. But like I said, the guy in front of me was really motoring up the climbs. He was a little guy like me, so had a pretty decent power to weight ratio, I would imagine. Fun section here, going through the trees. So back to what I was saying. There's always going to be someone faster than you somewhere. And that's why, for me, even though I love competition, I love getting out and racing just because it makes me a better rider. When I'm pushing myself, when I'm in a race situation, I'm going to push, as hard as I can for that distance. And that's, like I said, it makes you not only a more fit rider, but just, it works on your bike handling skills, but it's just fun to push yourself. It's fun to challenge yourself. Again, whether you're competing against other people or, just trying to set your own goals of a lap time or, a certain power or heart rate. This is a section where we had to go pretty fast to get up this hill. That hill was steeper than it looks on the GoPro. You really had to get your speed up because if you didn't, you were walking. And when I went out and watched the second wave, I saw a lot of people walking up that hill. And I went out to watch the second wave because my son actually raced. He's not much of a cross-country guy, but he got out and raced, and it was really fun watching him. A little switchback here. Kind of drops down and does a switchback. Okay, now this is lap 3. This is another fun section. Goes fast and flowy through the trees, and then it switchbacks up a hill coming up shortly. It was a little slippery. This is one section that had just a little bit of mud on it. Traction was still pretty decent. I've done this race course when it poured a few hours before we raced, and it was probably the hardest race I've ever done because this course turns into ice, so to speak, when it gets muddy. It's so slippery. Now we're kind of switchbacking our way up this hill, and there were some roots that I slipped out on one of my laps. I think my second lap right there. You can't even see it on the GoPro, but some about 2-inch size roots that are all packed together. And this section coming down, so I came down here, and when I made this right-hand turn right here, my front tire slipped out. You can't see on the camera, but I almost went down. It was muddy, and the front tire just slipped a little bit, but fortunately it caught. So this is another section, still on lap 3, that has a really steep climb. It's rooty. It was a little slippery from the rain the night before. And you can tell by my speed, it is, 25% grade, I would think. And this one, I felt like I was better staying in the saddle to put more weight over the rear tire to keep it from slipping because, again, you couldn't see it in the video, but there were a lot of roots that were still a little wet. This guy passed me. I thought he was in my class, but he actually wasn't. So I thought at this point I was in about 3rd or 4th place, and I'll talk about that coming up in a minute. But I'm actually in 2nd place right now, and the guy that I was chasing before has gotten a pretty good lead on me. Coming down this section here. Now I'm going to switch over to the 4th lap. So this is lap number 4, and I start to see the guy that I'm chasing. He's in 1st place. And my original strategy was just to stay away from the guys behind me because I could see them on some of the turns. I could see that they were only 30 seconds to a minute back. And so I pushed it pretty hard the 4th lap. I probably conserved a little bit more energy on this race than I should have. So there's my 1st place guy in front of me. So now I'm starting to put the pressure on. I'm feeling good. I've been eating my gels during the race and hydrating, and I'm feeling good at this point. And so in these field sections, I felt like I could pin it a little bit better and close the gap. So now we're coming through a section of single track. We're only about 4 or 5 minutes from the finish line, and I know that. And so I'm pretty decent on twisty single track just because I ride it so much here in Florida. And I have a little bit of a tailwind. So I use that right here to my advantage to really just pin it through the single track and try to close the gap. And fortunately, I was starting to close the gap a little bit here. And we're going to come out of the woods, another open section, and it's full on. I don't have a power meter on my cross-country bike, but it is game on at this point. I can see him. I can tell that I'm closing the gap a little bit, and I know we're going to finish up on some twisty single track, which again is something that I ride often, and so I felt like I could close the gap even more there. So all right, so we're coming into the last section of single track that lasts for a couple minutes, and I can see him getting closer and closer, weaving our way through the single track here. And he's keeping a good pace too. I mean, this guy can ride single track as well, which really, racing in Florida, you got to know how to ride single track quickly. All right, I've got him in my sights now, and I've really closed the gap. And I come up to his wheel here through the last section of single track. And I know we're going to come out and have a little bit of grass section, which is my only section to really try to come around this guy. And we've actually caught some guys that passed us earlier. So we really motored the fourth lap. So he could see me coming up behind me. So he started pinning it. And so we had a pretty fast fourth lap. Okay, now we're about ready to pop out of the woods here. And the last, there's a grass stretch, and we make a left, and there's a final grass stretch to the finish line. All right, here we go. It is sprint time. And at this point, I think I'm in third or fourth place. I didn't know I was sprinting for the win, which I don't know if I could have given it any more. But I tried to come around right here, and I gave it as much as I could, and I just didn't have enough grass to finish it. And so I finished in second place.
Almost got you.
Freaking awesome, man. Freaking awesome. Thanks for pushing.
Yeah, man.
I didn't know until after the race that it was also a Florida Cup race, which is a one-day race. So since the guy I was racing against was from Georgia, the guy who won, I got the Florida Cup. So I am the Florida Cup champion for 2021 for my race category. So whether I got that or not, it was a great day of racing. I had a blast. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.